Welcome to America, the land of the SUV. More specifically, we're here in Palm Springs, an oasis of Hollywood glamour on the edge of a barren wilderness that used to be the frontier in the Old West, to test a new and very different kind of SUV. The Bentayga is Bentley's first foray into this oh-so-lucrative segment, and about a third of the 5,000 or so they're going to build this year will find homes right here in these great United States. But what does this very British take on a luxury SUV actually feel like out here in the desert? And more importantly, what does this car mean for the future of Bentley? As a set of development goals for an engineering team, asking them to build the fastest, most powerful, most exclusive and most luxurious SUV ever seems like a pretty tall order. But now that we're here with the finished article, we can look at each of those claims in turn and see if the Bentayga really can match them, and also see why it can do everything a Bentley should do and a few things no other Bentley can do. For starters, let's talk about luxury. Now, luxury in any Bentley means handcrafted wood, leather and metal on every surface. Now, you can get those materials in other cars, but it's the small details that set the Bentayga apart and put it into a class all of its own. For example, one of the options is, instead of this analog clock here, you get a diamond-encrusted solid gold mechanical tourbillon made by Breitling, which is wound by the car itself. It costs about the same as this car's closest rival from Range Rover, and it's that sort of thing that means it's going to appeal to the super rich above all else. SUVs, of course, need to be practical too, but again, Bentley's approach here is a little bit different. You can get a three-piece picnic set with a wine cooler and fine-bone china set for the boot, or this lovely event seat, perfect for an evening watching the opera at Glyndebourne. Now, I can't really think of a better metaphor for what this car is all about than having a nice cup of tea from a bone china cup halfway up a mountain. Here in the back, as you'd expect, things feel pretty palatial. There's 4 seats as standard, or you can have the option of 5. However, the Bentayga is a real sea change, not when it comes to space or luxury, but in technology. There's over 90 different ECUs under the skin in here, controlling hundreds of different electrical systems. It's got radar-guided cruise control, a night vision camera, a head-up display, a state-of-the-art sat-nav system for once that's easy and intuitive to use, and a massive 80GB storage device for all of your music. The stereo in here is a £7,000 option, but it's got 18 speakers and 1800 watts of power. These removable Android tablets too mean people in the back will feel like they're in first class. But all of this technology wouldn't even have been heard of on a Bentley even 5 years ago. Now, apparently, the old boss of Bentley said that Bentley was in the power business, and Lamborghini, well, that was in the noise business. And that probably tells you all you need to know about the new 6-litre W12 twin-turbocharged engine that's fitted under the bonnet of the Bentayga. It produces 600 brake horsepower and a staggering 663 pounds-feet of torque, all from just 1250 RPM. But smoothness and refinement are key. You can barely hear this thing when you start it up on tickover, and most of the time you'll only ever go to about 1500 RPM and it'll just waft along, riding the surge of that torque. Having said that, if you do trouble the full extension of the throttle pedal, then you'll find that this is an alarmingly rapid car. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 4.1 seconds, and it'll go on to hit 187 miles an hour, which, for the record, is what makes this the world's fastest SUV. Better yet, there's also a new suspension system. Essentially, there's just 2 motors on each axle, which can vary the amount of roll stiffness that's got going on. And all that really means is that when you need it to, it'll ride like a Mulsanne, but when you're actually throwing it at corners, it'll also handle like a Conti GT Speed. That perfect balance of refinement and dynamic ability is exactly what Bentley were looking for when they designed the Bentayga. Now, we've also got 4 different driving modes to play with, including one called Bentley. Not really sure what that means, but essentially I'd love that if you owned a Bentley, you just hop in, put it in Bentley and waft along down the road. I think you'd probably be pretty satisfied with yourself. But then there's also 4 off-road modes, which we're going to go try a bit later on a challenging creek course. The car we had came fitted with the optional all-terrain specification, which adds mud and snow tyres to the 21-inch wheels and 4 extra driving modes to play with. On top of that, as standard, the Bentayga is already armed with electronic differential locks, a wading depth of over half a metre, lots of travel in its 4-way adjustable air suspension. It's still hard not to admire the effortless way this 187-mile-an-hour SUV claws its way up the steepest of slopes. Dangling its massive wheels in the air on the traverses, it's not quite as unstoppable as a Range Rover, but far more capable than we expected. We've now put the Bentayga through its paces and pushed it far more than most of its owners ever will. And I have to say, it's never been anything less than really, really impressive. Bentley's never built a car with this breadth of ability before. I have to say, they've really hit the nail on the head here. And the Bentayga is the benchmark by which all other luxury SUVs will be judged. It's also going to allow the company to pay for some more interesting lower volume projects, including, hopefully, a two-seat sports car. And that, you have to say, is really exciting.